Okay, thank you very much. I'd now like to call to order this committee of the whole meeting of April 24th, 2025. And I would like to just make a note that in order for us to be able to share news and other business in terms of as it relates to the public, I think it would be best if we looked at item 9 ahead of item 8, which is our closed session. So if we can just reverse the order of those two, that'll allow us to address other business, go into closed session, then we'll come back out and do notices of motion and close off the meeting as per usual. So with that, I'll put out a question if there's any declaration of interest. Okay, seeing none, then we'll go on to business arising from the minutes. We do not have anything to consider from before. Next, we'll go to, we don't have any delegations. And so we'll go to item 5, which is the determination of items requiring separate discussion from item 6, which is the consent agenda. There are 5 different items. May I ask if any council members would, committee of the whole members would like something pulled? Wait, we'll go to Councillor Eccles.
Thank you. I'd like to pull 6D just to get some clarification on the scope of that project.
Okay, so item 6D, are there any others? Okay, Madam Clerk, I don't see any others then. So what we'll do is we'll take a recommendation that the following consent items be received and that staff be authorized to take the actions necessary and give effect to the recommendation in the staff reports, and that the correspondence be supported or received for information as recommended in the consent agenda. All items in section 6 with the exception of item 6D. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Thank you. That's moved by Councillor Mackey, seconded by Councillor Nielsen. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. That allows us to move on to section 7 before we return back to section 6D. We'll go on to the items that are for direction and discussion and consideration. And with the first one we have, it is with regards to the report for the 2024 year-end transfers. So the recommendation is that council receive FRCW 0625 titled 2024 year-end transfers and approve the recommendations as contained in estimated in the report, and that council approve any surplus/deficit arising in the 2024 budget being transferred to or from the respective departmental reserves. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Thank you. That's moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Dickert. So it's now on the floor for discussion. So I'll invite Garrett Reid and Sue Marie to introduce this topic. Thank you.
Morning, everyone, and thank you, and through you, Madam Warden. Today, you'll hear both from me and Garrett Reid today. More from Garrett than less from me. For those of you who don't know Garrett, he started a new position with us in January as the manager of accounting. And through that, he has led our finance team through the audit this season and has done a great job to get us to the point where we are today, presenting you with the year-end transfers report. Preparing for our year audit truly is a team effort. So I would like to thank all of our finance team in supporting each other, as well as the senior management team and other departments such as the human resources and the IT departments. Staff have reviewed our financial statements for each functional area, and projections have been made to estimate the year-end surplus or deficit for 2024. Based on this, staff have recommended the 2024 transfers to and from reserves and are considered estimates until M&P completes their audit. The 2024 year-end financial review projects a corporate year-end surplus of just over 4.4 million. As you can see in the slide above you, it's broken down by each departmental area. Based on this, our budget net levy in 2024 was 73.9 million, and this surplus represents a 5.95% of that levy. Of this 4.4 million, there's 6 items which account for approximately 3.76 million of this surplus. And these are we had higher supplemental taxes and lower write-offs than we were estimated, and that created a surplus of 1 million, just over $1 million. And we had shortfalls in the budgets for WSIB and weekly indemnity for a combined total of $508,500. We had an unbudgeted sale of the CP Rail Trail that resulted in $518,000 in surplus. And in long-term care budgets, we had a surplus of just over $2 million, which was the result of increased investments from the province. And we had county-owned housing surpluses of $316,000 and $299,000 from subsidy provided to nonprofit housing. Our auditors are currently on site just over that door. I think I said this the exact same time since last year. So they are estimating that their year-end fieldwork will be done by midweek next June or next week. And that in June, they'll be presenting the audited statements to the Budget Planning Committee. And I can tell you, based on what the trial balance we provided it to the auditors, the difference, what you see and we'll hear today, is about $18,000 less of a surplus. So very close to what we were originally estimated. At this point, I'm going to turn the mic over to Garrett and he'll walk you through the more details of the report.
Morning, Warden Council. And again, I just want to say thank you to all the financial analysts and SMT. A lot of work goes into this report, a lot of pluses and minuses to get to the numbers that you see before you today. So corporate services is in a surplus of $939,800. Of this, $278,600 relates to the administration department's operating budget. This is primarily a result of savings in salary and benefits due to temporary vacancies in finance, HR, communications, and IT, as well as savings in the legal services department for external legal fees. Currently, staff are recommending that $60,000 of this surplus be allocated to the council communications reserve for the future replacement of the audio-visual system in the council chambers. An additional $80,000 be transferred to the planning legal reserve to help fund increased legal costs associated with Ontario Land Tribunal matters, and that the remaining $138,600 surplus be transferred to the one-time funding reserve. Council's budget is in a surplus of $23,500 due to savings in travel, meals, salaries, and benefits. The property budget, which is the administration building, is in an operating and capital deficit of $16,700, which is made up of an operating surplus of $27,600 and a capital deficit of $44,300. The capital deficit is related to two unbudgeted projects that happened in 2024. Provincial offenses is projecting a $60,400 surplus after cost sharing with Bruce County. And this surplus is primarily the result of increased ticketing revenue. The county's investment income was $846,500 higher than budgeted in 2024. As per the county's cash and investment policy, the net revenue budgeted from investment income that exceeds 1% of the county's own purpose levy will be transferred to one-time funding. Therefore, that $846,000 does not create a surplus or a deficit because it's automatically transferred to the one-time funding reserve. The general administration budget. The general administration budget is in a surplus of $42,000, which is the result of less consulting fees. As Sue mentioned, supplemental taxes and write-offs are projecting a surplus of $1,059,000, and this is made up of $813,000 of increased supplemental taxes and $246,000 less in write-offs in the year. The budget for the county's contribution to the Grey Bruce Public Health Unit is in a surplus of $18,300, and that's a result of a previous year cost recovery from the health unit. Grey County's self-insured plans, which are WSIB and weekly indemnity, are in a combined deficit of $508,500, which is a result of $373,500 in deficit in self-insured WSIB and $135,000 deficit in the weekly indemnity budget. And this is due to an increase in the number of claims and the duration of claims that we're seeing year over year. Do I stop at corporate services or keep going through the entire report?
I can put the call out at this point in time if you like. If you think it would be better to parcel it into sections, I'll put a call out then if there are any council committee of the whole members that have any questions. Not seeing any in the room. I can't actually see on the screen any I think we're okay to proceed. And we can always circle back to an item. Thank you.
Planning and Community Development is projecting a surplus of $484,300. Within the actual planning operating budget, there's a $20,000 deficit, which is the result of increased legal and professional fees due to Ontario Land Tribunal matters. These deficits are offset by a combined $9,900 in savings between civic addressing and the agricultural departments. The Forestry and Trails capital budget is expecting to be in a surplus of $518,000, which is the direct result of an unbudgeted sale of CP Rail Trail land. Staff are recommending that these funds be transferred directly to the CP Rail Trail Capital Reserve. Economic Development and Tourism is projecting a operating and capital deficit of $5,100, which is the net amount of an operating surplus of $24,200 due to increased tenant revenue, operational savings at Sydenham campus, and an unbudgeted provincial grant for the county's Gather campaign, which is reduced. And then the capital budget is in a deficit of $29,300. After the 2024 budget was approved, funding was received from the Rural Economic Development and FedDev, and this grant required that there be a county contribution in order to get the full funds for the makerspace at Sydenham campus. Community Transportation is ending the year on budget, primarily using provincial grants, with the shortfall being funded by the one-time funding reserve as previously endorsed by Council. Grey Roots is projecting a deficit of $18,500. The deficit includes an operating surplus of $8,100 and a capital deficit of $26,600. The capital deficit is due to the roof and air handling unit replacements being over budget at Grey Roots. Keep going on to Human Services now. The Human Services Department is projecting an overall surplus of $2,976,100. Ontario Works is projecting to end the year on budget, and the Early Learning and Childcare is projecting to end the year with a surplus of $268,200. Approximately $150,000 of this surplus is related to the early on budget. The surplus is a result of ministry funding and reduced spending for contract staffing that covered vacancies. The remaining $117,800 surplus relates from $304,500 of operational savings and reduced municipal contribution due to increased 100% provincial CWELC funding. And that is offset by reduced provincial funding of $186,700 for administrative costs. Staff are recommending of this surplus that $2,100 be transferred back into the Child Care Mitigation Funding Reserve to offset a prior year transfer from reserve that was eventually funded by transitional funding, and that the remainder be transferred to the Early On Center Capital Replacement Reserve to offset potential increases in construction in 2025 and then future capital repairs in future years. The Housing Department is projecting a surplus of $625,000. $615,000 of this relates to operational savings, with $316,000 of that $615 relating to the county-owned housing. The main drivers behind this were increases in tenant rent revenue due to changes in tenant circumstances and a reduction in the time required for turnover for vacant units. Additional savings of $59,000 were seen in salaries and benefits due to staffing vacancies and staff movements throughout the year. An additional $299,000 of operational savings was found in the not-for-profit housing budget and is due to agreements and mortgages ending with our providers, as well as funding reconciliations that resulted in subsidies being repaid by the providers to the county. Long-term care as a whole is projecting a surplus of $2,082,900. That is made up of $258,300 from Grey Gables, which is $240,400 of operating, $17,900 of capital. Lee Manor, $687,400, which is $686,000 of operating and $1,400 of capital. And Rockwood Terrace, $1,137,200, which is made up of $1,008,800 operating and $128,400 in capital. The story across all three homes is an increase in provincial general funding that was higher than budgeted, as well as higher direct care hours funding per bed than what was included in the 2024 budget. The capital savings are mainly attributable to savings across various capital projects, as well as using comprehensive minor capital funding that was not known when developing the 2024 budget. Additional savings are seen in Rockwood Terrace's capital budget, as staff are only completing critical repairs due to the future redevelopment of this building. The actual Rockwood redevelopment budget was $37 million of expenditures. The actual expenditure for the year was $10.3 million due to the timing of the project and uncertainty when the budget was developed. These $10.3 million are fully funded by transfers from reserve and provincial redevelopment funding, and therefore do not create a surplus nor a deficit. Paramedic Services is projecting to end the year on budget with various deficits and surpluses across various accounts, but the net impact being, or the net required levy being agreed to the 2024 budget. Some notable ins and outs include a $70,000 deficit for medical supplies and equipment due to the increased cost and usage for these items. A $48,000 deficit for the vehicle operations. This is attributable to the increased cost and frequency of repairs on our vehicles as a result of keeping vehicles beyond their useful life due to supply chain delays in receiving new ambulances. And these costs were offset by increased provincial grant, savings in the uniform budget, and savings in salaries and benefits. The paramedic capital budget is fully funded by reserve and therefore does not create a surplus nor a deficit. Find up my slides, sorry. Transportation is projecting to end the year on budget with a $187,000 surplus in operating and $187,000 deficit in capital. The operating surplus is primarily attributable to temporary staffing vacancies, as well as reduced need for overtime and seasonal plow operators due to a late winter in 2024. The capital deficit is attributable to a $682,000 deficit in machinery and a $495,000 surplus in construction. The machinery deficit is the result of two timing differences. One for the sale of a Gradall that was budgeted to be sold in 2024, but did not get sold until 2025. And the other around the timing and delivery of tandems versus roll-off tandems. The $495,000 surplus in the construction budget is attributable to surpluses on Grey Road 9 and 14 pulverize and paving, Grey Road 13 pulverize and pave, and is offset by deficits in the Grey Road 4 and Grey Road 3 intersection improvement project, unbudgeted costs for Grey Road 27, and then additional $120,500 of deficit in various non-project specific costs. Additionally, staff are requesting that the following projects that raised levy in 2024 that did not get completed, have those levy funds be transferred to reserve for use in the 2025 budget. And that's $830,900 for Grey Road 30 and $505,000 for Grey Road 19 and 21 intersection improvements. And then the last slide is donations that have been received during the year. Staff are requesting that these donations be transferred to reserve. They're donated for specific purposes, so transferring them to reserve allow us to use them for, or to offset the costs for those specific purposes when they occur. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll put it out then again. If there are questions or comments from members of County Committee of the Whole. And I think at this point, perhaps we can retire the screen so I can keep an eye on the virtual. We'll begin with Councillor Greig.
Thank you very much. And through you, thank you for the report, Garrett. A couple questions. One of the discrepancies was where surpluses generated was from labor pool. Could you just comment on whether we had higher turnover last year, what perhaps contributed that to that more so, or what was perhaps more unexpected than budgeted? Second question would be supplemental tax income. Was that just a timing item that came in later, or was that something that we just saw more growth than we had even forecast? And third question is, our purchasing bylaws are structured in a way that draws could be made upon these transfers during the year 2025. how can staff bring these transfers to budget committee so the budget committee can assess that they are contained still in the budget when we're deliberating the 2026? We have the unenviable task of trying to bring down what is, I think, an unacceptable plus more so than 6% increase. We forecast long-term for budget for reserve contributions. $4.4 million is not insignificant in terms of how much this surplus is relative to our levy that we imposed. I think we have a task as a budget committee and council to ensure that these reserve contributions are recognized when we're considering the 2026 budget. And it may mean that we can contribute less so as to our forecasted plans at this time, noting the significant contributions that we're able to make in passing this document today. Because $4.4 million it's a big number, and we need to recognize that.
Through you, Madam Warden. I'll start with some, I'd say, generic comments on the differences between wages. And then if Director Moreau has any comments, she can weigh in. I can say within our own department, we had a number of between leaves and someone leaving for another job. We had some gaps in recruitment. We had some challenges in trying to recruit for a 12-month leave. So that's created some savings in my own department. I don't want to put Jen on the spot. I think that's unique. It's not unique across finance.
Through you, Madam Warden, to Councillor Gregg. That is kind of the story across the board. Within HR, we had a leave as well and chose to replace at a consultant for a short period of time rather than do a full fill as we were working on our Dayforce project. And I would agree that there were some folks that left us and then decisions made about when we would be replacing those folks just based on internal priorities and projects that we have and managing those. And certainly within the finance team, and I know that across the lower tier, you've experienced this as well. It is quite difficult to recruit and finance resources, which is why we're now focused on a Grow Our Own program across Grey County when we have positions that are vacant and looking at what we can do internally to bring the strength of our team up to hopefully do promotions internally rather than recruiting off the streets.
And so with regard to the question on subs and write-offs, so we use an average based on the most recent few years to determine a budget. And of course, we never know when something is going to come on the roll. You could have a project that takes several years. You could have one that goes faster than maybe the host municipality anticipates. So it's a best estimate at the time the budget's created. And as far as the surplus and using it in a future budget year, what we do throughout the years, we're keeping track of requests to use in your surplus, as well as what our reserve balances are. And we also have a reserve policy that gives target reserve balances. So for example, this year we've got some in-year surplus in transportation that they've been using for a number of projects that's being kept track of against what the final reserve balance will be once the auditors are finished. And the one thing that I'm going to mention is, of course, depending on what interest rates are, the effect of the economy on tariffs, et cetera, and Rockwood Terrace redevelopment and the fact we're going to borrow. I think there's going to be some good conversations about where you use the money, whether it's to If we have some surplus that we want to use to reduce the amount we borrow and we pay ourselves back the interest versus paying Infrastructure Ontario, or whether we're using some of this money to offset increases in next year's budget. The only thing I would caution is when you use that money, you have to be very mindful and make sure that you're using it for something that is not an annual expense. Because otherwise, then you're just looking for that money in 2027. So if it was for a specific project, that can be an appropriate use. But if you were using it to fund, say, a new position that is going to be here for the next 30 years, then that's not a good use of the funds. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, was there any follow-up, Councillor Gregg?
No, I think that's good. I appreciate it. I appreciate the efforts to try to recognize particularly savings in HR turnover or gapping where possible. I mean, the surplus is better news than the deficit. But the flip side is, it's important to carry these forward for consideration by committee and council. I think there was a line item, for example, of $30,000 to be contributed for council one-time funding, perhaps. What I'm just saying to council is our purchasing bylaws, I think, are structured in a way that there could be a draw or an expenditure from a reserve during the year 2026 through this year, 2025, where not necessarily would we see that same reserve contribution then in November, December, contemplating next year's budget, because it could get utilized still this year because it's coming from reserve. We put it in reserve today. It comes from a reserve. It only comes back to council to see if it's above a certain threshold. So that's why I'm just saying it's nice if we can have this kind of mirrored in a future document so that council and committee can see that, okay, here's what we decided today. Here's what we're still able to recognize in November when we're contemplating next year. So thanks for the response.
Okay, so let me just make sure that there aren't any further hands. Okay, we'll go to Councillor Eccles.
Thank you, Madam Warden, through you and Sue or Mary Lou. Just a small little thing. In corporate, we were taking $80,000 and putting it into legal to cover off probably most of it through planning at the tribunals. In planning, there was a $20,000 deficit. Planning has X number of legal in there. Do we see this being I guess this is more of a budgeting thing. Is this a one-time thing that in 2024 we were off on how much legal was going to be spent defending our planning decisions? And is 80,000, will we see that being an addition into, is that what the additional amount is going to be? Not just the 20 to cover off the deficit from planning this year in 24.
Through you, Madam Warden. A budget is an estimate of what we forecast to spend, and there are a lot of things that happen during the year that are unforecasted. So when the budget was prepared and we would have worked with planning in, say, September, early October in 2024, we wouldn't have known all the legal fees that we were going to incur. So a best estimate is used, and quite often that's based on, any indications. Sometimes it's like an average of prior years. We also had budgeted in corporate services under legal, higher professional and consulting fees, recognizing that we have one solicitor on staff and that we might need to go external. So when we didn't need to use the amount of money that we put in the budget for professional consulting and legal, it seemed appropriate that we would use some of that money, transfer it to the planning reserve, because that reserve would be insufficient for legal fees. So it's planning for what they would need in the future so that the money's in the right pocket.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any around the horseshoe here. Okay, so I think thank you very much for all the details that you've provided both in the report and in the presentation. I'll now call the vote. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you very much. We have two other items for discussion and direction. The next one is item 7B, and I'd like to call it Mr. Ireton for that one. It's recommended that report TRCW 1225 regarding the Grey County Road 9 overlay project from Highway 6 to Grey Road 109 be received, and that the request to move forward the Grey Road 9 overlay project from 2026 into 2025 be approved, and that staff work with Cox Construction Limited to prepare a change order estimated at 458,000 after HST rebate for inclusion of this work as part of the RFT TS 0325 Grey Road 9 pulverize and pave and overlay project, and that 458,000 be funded from the surplus realized in the 2025 Transportation Capital Construction Budget, and if the surplus is not realized, from the Transportation General Reserve. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Thank you. That's moved by Councillor Pringle, seconded by Councillor Carlton. It's now on the floor for discussion, so we'll look to you first, Mr. Ireton.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and good morning, County Council. Today I'm here to speak to report TRCW 1225, which provides an update on our 2025 road construction program, and to bring forward a recommendation regarding a strategic adjustment to our capital plan. As you are aware, the county has recently closed several road construction tenders as part of our 2025 capital construction plan. The good news is that bids have come in under budget, and thanks to increased competition, new suppliers entering the market, and favorable unit pricing on a number of major items. This has resulted in a healthy construction surplus for 2025. So given this favorable situation, staff are recommending that we move the Grey Road 9 overlay project from Highway 6 to Grey Road 109, which is currently scheduled in construction for the year of 2026, moving it forward into the 2025 season. We propose to incorporate this work as a change order to the existing 2025 Grey Road 9 pulverize and pave and overlay project, which is contract RFT TS-03-25, which has been awarded to Cox Construction Limited. This stretch of road is 8 kilometers from the existing project, and the scope of work is similar, making it both logical and efficient to combine the projects. Cox Construction is amendable to taking on the additional work pending council approval. And this would allow us to extend current competitive pricing to the new segment, saving on mobilization and general construction costs, and allowing us to complete all the work in Grey Road 9 in one construction season, which helps to minimize public disruption. Financially, this move makes strong sense. The original 2026 budget projection for the overlay was $780,300. By moving it into 2025 and using the 2025 tendered rates, staff project a cost of approximately $458,000, representing a savings of 42% from the projected budget for 2026. As there is no guarantee that the prices will remain this low in upcoming construction seasons, staff feel that moving this project forward makes sense. Comparatively, tendering this project on its own would likely result in higher pricing. The project is smaller in scope, and as a standalone project would generally result in higher unit prices and larger expenses for items such as mobilization and demobilization, traffic control, bonding, insurance, and others to name, or that's just to name a few anyway. The change order would increase the original 2025 Grey Road 9 contract by 16.7% above the already awarded amount. This would be fully funded from the 2025 surplus in our transportation services budget, which would still retain an estimated $243,200 in surplus funds based on this commitment and others already made. If necessary, we do have additional funding available in the Transportation General Reserve. If approved, staff will finalize the change order with the contractor and adjust the construction schedule to accommodate the additional work this season. We believe this is a proactive, cost-effective decision that maximizes value and improves efficiency. I can take any questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. So we'll put it out to council members then, committee, of the whole members, if they have questions or comments. Not seeing any hands. We'll start over here with Councillor Gregg.
Thank you. And just a quick question. I was on that road coming back from Good Roads Conference, actually. I cannot recall if there was paved shoulders on that section. Can you just inform me as to whether there is not, and if this will incorporate paved shoulders? Thanks.
Yeah, through you, Warden. There's currently not paved shoulders, but the overlay will include paved shoulders to effectively, if we have 1.2, we'll be paving 1.2, and if it's not available, we'll either do a bit of widening to accommodate or make the adjustments to make sure it's there throughout the stretch. So.
Follow-up question then, and not to I hate to put you on the spot. Have you got an approximate value per concession when we get paved shoulders in terms of the operational savings downstream of not having to do the gravel maintenance and so forth? We had a report years ago, but just to update on a simple term, like when we're just looking at one concession, can you give us an approximate savings on that?
We're actually working on some of those numbers right now, so I don't have them exactly, but I wouldn't want to say right now just because we're not at that point, but we do have, Sean's actually working on that right now as we speak, so.
Okay, thank you. And then we have a question from the Deputy Warden, and then we'll go to Councillor Eccles.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and I would guess $1 bazillion is savings. But notwithstanding that, I'm just wondering, by including this project or adding this piece onto the project, will it jeopardize timing of some of our other projects that this contractor is doing for us this summer? Thank you.
Through you, Warden, based on the conversations I've had with them, they're comfortable with it. One of the items is their asphalt plant or the plant they're intending to use is just down the road. So it's actually within probably 1.5 kilometers from the site. So for them, it's fairly efficient. So they don't expect that there will be any real delays to the other project that they have with.
Okay, Councillor Eccles.
Good morning, Trevor, and through Madam Warden to you. The other project, or the primary portion of this project, the paved shoulders are going to be done there, because I don't believe there are any paved shoulders on Grey Road 9 from one end to the other.
Yes, that is correct. There is paved shoulders on the entire Grey Road 9 project that was previously awarded. So both the pulverized and paved portion will get paved shoulders and the overlay as well.
Okay, any other questions? And to CEO Wingrove.
Good morning, Council. Thank you so much, Trevor and Pat. And just to, provide a little bit more context to Council, the idea of bringing projects into the year that weren't budgeted at the beginning of the year is not something that we as staff took lightly. There was a lot of conversation amongst the senior team about whether or not it really did make good economic sense to bring this proposal forward to you. And I think in this particular case, given the specific factors at play here about how close things were and some of the pricing that we've seen so far this year, it did make really good sense to provide this opportunity to you and to the county. But I did want you to know it's not something that we intend to make a habit of. We'll consider those things carefully on a case-by-case basis. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. And I do not see any further hands. It's been moved and seconded. Therefore, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Ireton. And we will have 6D for you a little bit later in the agenda. Now we'll go on to the next one, which is item 7C, and it's recommended that report CSRCW 0725 regarding a request from the City of Owen Sound for $45,000 to purchase a parcel of land for affordable housing be received, and that $45,000 be approved to the City of Owen Sound to purchase land located at 2181 8th Avenue East, 2207 8th Avenue East, and 229 8th Avenue East, and that the 45,000 be provided from the Affordable Housing Fund. And Director Shaw will be able to introduce that, but I'll look for a mover and a seconder first. Moved by Councillor Body, seconder. Seconded by Councillor Mackey. So it's now on the floor for discussion. Welcome, Director Shaw.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Good morning, County Council. So the City of Owen Sound is partnering with the Owen Sound Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation to purchase some land from the Ministry of Infrastructure to support the development of affordable housing. There are 3 parcels of land that are all in a row and they are adjacent to the Owen Sound Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation lands that already have an existing affordable housing build on them. Owen Sound Municipal is looking at about 10 to 12 units at this site, possibly more once they are able to own it and get a better look at it. Of course, this housing is much needed in Owen Sound. When the city first negotiated to purchase the land, the price was $215,000. The Ministry of Infrastructure discovered through a title search that there were liens on the property in the amount of about $45,000. And so they're asking if the county would participate in providing some funds for the affordable land in the amount of $45,000. And we're proposing that that funding would come through our affordable housing fund that we have. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions from Committee of the Whole members? Okay, not seeing any. I don't see any hands for you, Director Shaw. In that case, then I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, so that takes care of the sections for discussion and direction. So Madam Clerk, shall we return to item 6B? Right. All right, now that was pulled by Councillor Eccles, so I'll call, first of all, let me just look to it. So this is. Okay, so the recommendation for the item that was pulled from the earlier consent is that report TRCW, thank you. 1325 containing the tender results for the Town of Hanover contract 10007 be received, and that Omega Contractors be awarded the Grey County portion of the tender for the total amount of $1,254,440.12, excluding HST. May I ask for a mover and a seconder to get it on the floor? Thanks. It's moved by Councillor McQueen, seconder. Seconded by Councillor Dobreen. It's on the floor for discussion. Councillor Eccles, I believe that you were the one that pulled this.
Thank you. And yeah, the project is between 24th Ave and Grey Road 4, 10th Street. Yet in the explanation, it says that the Town of Hanover is projected to service and development along the northern portion of Grey Road 28. That the project runs from 10th Street to 24th, which is before the bridge. Anything that's north of Grey Road 28 is in West Grey. I'm not gathering, is this project going beyond the bridge right up to the corner of 28 and Grey Road or West Grey Road 2 and across? Because that's the only way you can get to the north part of 28. Or am I missing something in there on that? Because we did the portion from was it 14th Street to the bridge last year? I'm just, there's a little confusion there on where this project is going. I thought it was from 14th to Grey Road 4, but it seems it's north of that. Trevor? Or Mayor Patterson? Councillor Patterson?
Yeah, through you, Warden. The work is from 10th to 14th, and there is just some small segments of water main that are part of that system that does, feed the development to that north. Now, basically, it's just a continuation of the whole project in general. So with that now, that there is the availability to service that. That's at least based on my understanding from discussions with the town of Hanover.
So I'm looking to the two representatives from Hanover. In the report, then anything north of 28 at this point in time, I'm just not gathering it. Just a little miscommunication here in the project? Or can I expect this to go up to Hamden Lake, that far north? To service individual places in West Grey.
Okay, I'll put it out, the opportunity either if Councillor Dickert or Councillor Patterson would like to provide any further information, or we can turn it over back to staff. I'll look to our members. Yes, okay, we'll go to Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Warden. Good morning, County Council, and through the Warden to you, Councillor Eccles. In 2023, the project consisted of our share, part of the construction, and from 14th Street to the bridge heading north was urbanization, curb, gutter, sidewalks, and street lighting. This year, it's proposed from 14th Street south to 10th Street or County Road 4. We're not going past the bridge.
So I guess that's, along the northern portion of Grey Road 28. So I can take it that it's just a little miscommunication part there. Okay, thank you. Just want clarification on that.
Okay, thank you. And I'm looking for any further hands for discussion on this item. Not seeing any. And so with that, then we'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ireton. And that takes care of items 6 and 7. That allows us to move on. And as I noted at the beginning, we would like to move the other business up ahead of going into closed session. So we'll now go to item 9, which is other business. And CAO Wingrove, if I could ask you to begin with the other business in terms of announcements, in terms of public sessions, and also an update on our deputy CAO.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Two things, Council. One of the, it's a minor issue that we've run into this year, but I did want to bring it to your attention and take any advice or thoughts that you might have. When we're scheduling public information sessions, we often use your facilities, community centers or otherwise, as the location that is, closest and most convenient for your residents to attend these sessions. There seems to be some discussion about whether or not the county should be charged for a rent-a-hall rental fee, for example, for those locations. And certainly the county can do whatever. I would just think it would be easiest if we had a consistent policy in that regard. If it's your thought around the table that it is appropriate for the county to be charged a rental fee when we take meetings in your locations, then that's fine. We'll build it into the budget, and it will just appear as part of the levy from the county each year. Alternatively, if it's the thought that this is a benefit to the communities and it would not be appropriate to charge the county, then we can communicate that back through the CAO group to ensure that everybody's kind of on the same page. I understand that cleaning fees and that sort of thing are an expense that you incur and you need to cover those costs, but just one side or the other, I think, needs to budget appropriately. So if anybody has any thoughts or comments about that, either this morning or after the fact, if you could let me know, and then we'll try and get to a consistent way of going forward when we're planning these public information meetings in your communities.
Thank you. And just before we open it up for that feedback that you've asked, perhaps you can just give us the examples of the upcoming public meetings that we do have, just to give members of the public as well as county councilors context to the consideration.
Excellent. Thank you for that suggestion. Currently, we're planning public information sessions, as we do each year when we want to communicate to the public about the construction projects that would be happening in your community, to make sure that people are advised about, road closures or other things. In addition, this year, there are also sessions planned to discuss the roads exchange project and to give the public information about that as well.
Okay, thank you. And the public information session about the coyotes as well on May 8th too. So with that in mind, the question is there feedback in terms of which direction to go so we have consistency across the county? Comments from members? Okay, we'll begin with Councillor Boddy and then go to Councillor Gregg.
Does Kim want us to let her know next meeting?
Might be a slow response rate after that. All right, we'll go to Councillor Gregg.
Just wondering, we can, as municipalities, deem certain facilities municipal capital exemptions. Was that part of any conversations, just making that type of a declaration for that type of service being provided?
I'm not aware of those discussions happening to date.
Other feedback or comments? We'll go to Councillor Carlton.
Thank you. My thought would be that should be something that should be a decision of each local council. So perhaps we could take it back to our councils for discussion and come back to a future meeting with a response.
Okay, and that would also facilitate time for the lower tier staffs to put the numbers together in terms of what it does cost and the various different costs that go behind opening doors for a meeting. Okay, we'll go to Deputy Warden Milne.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Southgate is not interested in charging the county to use our facilities if it's a benefit to our community. I mean, it makes no sense to have governments trading money back and forth. I mean, there's only one taxpayer, as the old cliche is. We're all trying to work for the benefit of our community. It makes no sense to create more bureaucratic paperwork to trade money back and forth. So having said that, I have no idea what my staff have actually communicated to you people. So that's why I say I'm way out in a limb here, but I'm going to say that Southgate is not interested in charging the county, and we will be talking to our staff to try to communicate our thoughts there. So thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Councillor Mackey.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I share my friend's thoughts from Southgate, and I was going to mention it would be an opportunity for the strong mayors to make some decisions here. I will have to take it back to my council, though, unfortunately. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mackey. And other inputs? So, Madam CAO, what is the best way to proceed then? Is it to tap into the CAO's network and ask them to bring it forth in the correct procedures for the lower tiers so that we can get some formal feedback and hopefully land on some consistency?
Thank you, Madam Warden. That would be excellent. We'll bring this forward to the next CAO meeting and have a conversation there. Thank you.
Okay. So, yes, Councillor Dobreen.
In the interest of time, when is that next CAO meeting? Because our councils will be meeting and we might be able to bring this forward, but maybe a communication to the CAOs that we've had the conversation and that we'll be following up or being prepared for our next round.
Certainly we'll do that. And then that meeting will be in early May. Okay.
Go ahead. Yep.
All right. The second item that I wanted to bring forward this morning, and this is on behalf of the interview panel for the deputy CAO position, was to let council know the outcome of that competition. We had a very strong competition, nearly 70 applicants for the position. And an awful lot of thought and consideration went into that. At the end, I think we're all really pleased to be able to advise council that the successful candidate in the competition was Niall Oakley, who's the CAO of Georgian Bluffs at this time. So Niall has a lot of extensive experience, management experience, both from the UK and here in Canada with a number of different organizations. He's been very active in the CAO group and in a number of our communities of practice. So he's well known to many of the staff and the team. Everybody who was in the competition, everybody who was interviewed for the position did a really excellent job. We were so blessed to have the depth of candidates that we did. So it wasn't an easy decision, but I think that Niall will do an excellent job and be an excellent new member to our senior management team. So I hope that we'll all welcome Niall as we do in Grey County and support him as he comes into the new role sometime later in May, looking at May 20th at this time, I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So with that then, if committee of the whole will allow me, I would like to close our other business with one final item. I do recognize that next May 2nd will be CAO Wingrove's final day, and many of us will be able to share both in video and in person our personal words and our personal reflections on the tenure that she's been here. And many of us here around the county table having far less experience than others who have been here for that duration. So if you would allow me, I would like to speak on behalf of all of council, all of our Grey County Council and the staff that are present to provide some formal context and thanks to CAO Wingrove at this point in time. And then we'll be able to enjoy this one final week together until May 2nd. It is very important to take some time here in our county council table to acknowledge the contributions that CAO Wingrove has made over the years that we've been. So over the years that she's been here. So as this is her final council meeting and committee of the whole meeting, before we adjourn, we do want to take a moment to recognize Kim for all of her incredible leadership, unwavering support of council, and deep dedication to the people of Grey County. Kim joined Grey County in September of 2015, before many of us were even seated around this horseshoe. Over the past decade, she has been a steady and trusted presence, guiding the administration of the county, and doing so as a strong, capable female leader. Kim's leadership has not only been effective, but inspirational, particularly in our community and across our organization to women. I certainly know that when I contemplated accepting the nomination, part of the reason that I felt uplifted and ready with confidence was knowing that I would be guided in my first few months with Kim by my side. She has provided insightful advice to council and fostered meaningful relationships with our member municipalities and our community partners. It is remarkable to look back on all that's been accomplished under Kim's leadership, and I have had a true joy in doing that because I consider myself one of the new ones, certainly here at the curb at the county council, but even my length as only being on council since 2018. Her impact across our county has gone much further, longer, and deeper than that. And it was a true pleasure to see the summary that is all of what Kim has been able to accomplish. If you bring it up with her, she will be the first to direct her praise back to the whole team or to council. And I believe that's often the way that we look at it when we see our council members sitting here in the same circle as our senior management staff representing the greater staff as well. It is that team effort, and Kim has been at that leadership. We all know the truth. Kim has played an essential role in driving this work forward, often behind the scenes, encouraging us, challenging us, and helping us make decisions here at the county table that truly supports all of our residents in Grey County. There are far too many accomplishments to list all of them, but here are a highlight of just a few. She supported broadband expansion through collaboration with SWIFT and the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, helping bridge the digital divide in our rural areas. She oversaw major capital projects, including the expansion of the administration building. She helped guide council through the right decision on redeveloping Rockwood Terrace, bringing more long-term care beds to our community in a modern, resident-focused facility. She was the driving force behind the Sydenham campus, Grey County's skilled training and entrepreneurial hub. She championed community transportation initiatives, helping connect residents across the region. Under Kim's leadership, our economic development efforts have flourished, supporting local businesses and workforce development. She has built strong collaborative relationships with our local municipalities and the CAOs, improving coordination across our local government upper and lower tier. She has fostered deep partnerships with organizations, community organizations. Georgian College, the United Way are just two of the many that have crossed the rooms and entered into conversation thanks to Kim and her efforts. She leads with both her head and her heart. She's been a passionate advocate for programs that support our most vulnerable residents. She strongly supported the Community Paramedicine and Supportive Outreach Services program, which reaches some of the most marginalized individuals in our communities. And with her encouragement, we purchased a former motel to provide short-term shelter. Under her leadership, we've begun graduating clients out of the supportive housing program, helping people find stability and dignity. And before my time here at the county table and many of ours, Kim was one of Kim's most defining moments was her calm, compassionate leadership during COVID-19 during the pandemic. In the face of uncertainty, fear, and rapidly shifting circumstances, Kim, in her position, never wavered. Because public service does not stop in a crisis, and neither did Kim. She led by example, ensured staff were supported, and helped keep vital services running as smoothly as possible through unprecedented times. So Kim, on behalf of all of County Council, thank you for your tireless dedication over these past 10 years. It has been a privilege to work alongside you as warden and as a member of this county council. We hope that you are deeply proud of your many achievements here and of the outstanding team that you have built. You have raised the bar in municipal leadership, and we are so grateful for your service. Thank you for always putting the people of Grey County first. We wish you nothing but the best in your next chapter.
Thank you all so much. That was unexpected. I'll say again, I am just so humbled and so grateful to have had the opportunity to serve. First and foremost in my mind is always that there's people. At the end, the beginning of every transaction, at the end of every transaction, there are people who are trying to do the work and the people who will be impacted by the work. And certainly in this role, in the work that we do here every day, there's no end of process and policy that guides us. But the thing that I've always tried to keep foremost in my mind and not lose sight of was why we were doing what we were doing and how this was going to play out, not next week or next year, but long term, many, many years in the future, where will a particular initiative or spending decision take us? And so I hope in some really small way, I've been able to have a positive impact. But again, I couldn't do anything that I've done without the support of all of you and the people who aren't on council anymore, but you've always been so wonderful to work with, and I'm so grateful to you. And we have the best senior management team in the world. And thank you so much to them, because it's their hard work and good ideas that really are the foundation for all that we do. So thank you again so very, very much for all of your kindness and your support. It means the world to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So with that, any other business? I'd now like to then take a moment then for us to return back to item 8 to go into closed session matters before we adjourn the meeting with 9, 10 and 11. Yes, yes, okay, so how, Madam Clerk, should we call the break before or after we go into closed session? Should we do the motion before? Okay, so Madam Clerk agrees that it would be best to do the break before we read out and move and pass a motion to go into close. So let's do that. If we could try to keep it to a short break, if everybody could attempt to return in 5 minutes, then we'll go into closed session and wrap up the meeting. Thank you. If I can encourage committee, the whole members to return to their seats, we will get started shortly. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, County Council, Committee of the Whole members. We are at item 8, which is closed meeting matters. It's recommended that the Committee of the Whole does now go into closed session pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss a proposal, development charges, deferral, and conditional exemption. A trade, and we go under with the reasons for a trade secret or scientific or technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, and also a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Thank you. Moved by Councillor McKay, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Any discussion on going into closed? All those in favor? And that motion is carried. We'll give a moment for the correct people to be in the room and for technology to switch over.
Okay, we're back in open session. I can confirm that we only discussed those items that were listed on the in-camera session. And my name is now Andrea. There we are. There we go. I can assure you. Anyway, I'll stop. Okay. Where are we at? We've already done other business. We've done that. Is there any notice of motion? Not seeing any. I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor DeBreen. Sorry? I said that we only discussed those items that we went into closed session to discuss. So, okay, Councillor DeBreen moved, we come out of, or we adjourn. Councillor Carlton says, seconds that. All those in favor? We're done. There's the gavel. We're done. Thank you. We're adjourned.